Hi, and welcome to Free Keyboard. I'm so excited to be showing you this keyboard I made, and I'm giving out for free. So if you'd like a copy, just leave your username in the comments, and then I will add you as an editor so you can import it into your world. And so first it says, welcome Laex05, and I'm like, yeah, let's say hi back. So I hit the shift key a couple times, type H-I-L-D, double shift. For some reason, the shift click requires 2 clicks. I don't know. I literally don't know why, but it does. And it's literally always 2 times. So I'm okay with it. And then we've now said the classic hi world. The caps key does seem to be broken. It was working when I published this weekend, so I'm not sure why it's broken. The published world cannot be changed by editors, so you don't need to worry about this world changing. And I'm curious if when we import this into the world that we're going to be using it in, if it will resume working. The other cool thing is we have an enter, which adds breaks, so you can type like another one down here. Hi, Mom. And then we have the clear button, so you can clear it. But what's so cool about the clear button is it turns into an undo button, so you can bring everything back, you can backspace, and what's so cool about backspacing is it does check for breaks, and so you can quickly backspace breaks, which is awesome. And don't forget, you can even use emojis. If you click shift, click sprite 1, and then close it off with this one. Love this! Or if you really just wanted to demonstrate some of these really cool functions, this is another amazing keyboard for just that, as well as just other forms of communication. So yeah, with this out of the way, let's go ahead and import it into the Vidyuu Studio. What you do need to know about this keyboard is it takes up about 10% objects. We've kind of made it very light, so it doesn't take up too many, but it is still 10%. And it also takes up 6% animation capacity. So you'll want to keep that in mind. Welcome to Vidyuu Studio. If you haven't been here for one of our live shows, they're every Wednesday and they feature this marvelous wheel. And on this wheel, we have questions and you can spin the wheel to like get a question or get a game. And it's pretty cool thing. Like here, we just unlocked big stacks, which is a fun mini game. And what's neat about this is we're going to use the keyboard to allow the audience members to submit questions to the spinny wheel. So let's go ahead and open up our menu, click the Create tab, head on over to Keyboard, click eye icon, and then the 3-dot icon, and we can import the world. Okay. It's probably, oh, there it goes. You can tell it imports because you get a lot of lag. So if we head into build mode, we're going to have to look for this. Probably should have put some sort of way to search for it, but all right. So we found our free keyboard. We're going to go ahead and pull out a cube object. This is going to allow us to stand here and test it out. Now, I believe it's very important to test things when we arrive. And so one thing I know for sure is that these objects very rarely work when you enter. So you have to zoom in, zoom out, double click on your trigger finger to zoom out very quick, because interactive objects, just for some reason, they get kind of broken when you travel between worlds. There we go. Perfect. Okay. And then the other thing to note is what you didn't see off camera is there was some local scripting bugs that definitely broke this world. Kind of not really. But basically like this text object just got lost and we had to leave and come back. And in the end, I fixed a couple other small bugs with the keyboard. Keyboard's now published and it's got the fixes in. Anyway, point is, be very careful when you're using this keyboard because the local scripting is still extremely buggy, and this is running 3 local scripts. So yeah, we've done our best to like fix almost everything, so you probably won't notice them. But if you're like messing with it with stop reset world and people are like playing with it while you're stopping and resetting the world, I'm pretty sure that is the root of the bug. Okay, so we're going to go into play mode and we turn around. It says welcome Laex. Perfect. I grab my controllers. The shift key is working. The caps key is now working. Yeah, we fixed that bug. All right, this looks good. Had a great day. As far as I'm concerned, this is working fabulously. So we now need to move it into position to get it to work exactly right. So we're going to delete this. And I'm going to recommend that we stop the world when we move this. So you're going to hit stop and reset. So that way there's nothing running on a scripting side of this. I'm going to actually reposition these as well, like more like right there and right there. I think that's good. Yep. Okay. And then the first object I'm going to select is the trigger because it's nice and flat. So I know that that will be good. Then I select everything else. Here we go. Almost. It does cause a little bit of lag when you're selecting this many objects, but we've just about got it. Okay, so I think we're good. We're going to zoom this up. Now it's important to note when you're importing worlds that you get an additional spawn point. So we're going to delete that in just a second before I forget. But we're going to set this off to the side. That's so that when people enter, they're not immediately seeing it. It doesn't obtrude their view. And now if you want to, you can step off to the side to submit a question to the wheel, and super duper awesome. So now we're going to slide that down just like that. Perfect. Okay. I'm going to click one time to let go. And now if we come down here, this is that spawn point I was talking about. So we'll go ahead and delete that. World's looking good. And I wanted to check something. Yes. Here are our scripts. So we're going to select these 3 scripts and we're going to move them up into the corner over here. Now, it is worth noting that if you are really afraid of the local scripting bugs that can occur, which is fair, if you go to the gear icon on the top of these scripts, you can change it to default and the scripts will still function. They'll just be a little laggy. But if you want really responsive scripts, definitely keep them in local. Just be very careful with them. Now, the goal of this keyboard is to allow us to enable user input. And so what we're going to do is use the return key as a submit key. So once again, let's make sure the world is stopped. So I'll go hit stop and reset, just so when we're working on this, we don't have to worry about anything happening. We're going to highlight the text object here. I have to zoom in pretty small here. And then we'll slide this off to the side. And now normally it says return, but we want it to say is submit. So we're just going to go caps lock, submit. And so on the keys, you have the ability to say what is the shift state, meaning when it's in shift or caps lock, what does it say? And when it's in the initial state, this is the lowercase state. So we type submit there. And so on these controls, we're just going to type in submit so that people know that that's how they submit their query to the board. And then we kind of need to explain to people what it is that they're going to be submitting. So we're going to grab a text gizmo, and this is just going to say, submit your questions. So I'll go type that in. There we go. Submit your questions, exclamation point. Now we're going to drag this down and put this on the top of the board. And so the easiest way is to snap it. So I've got snapping on, and we're going to snap it to the top of this text object and then just slide it upwards. There we go. And we probably should make it a lot bigger than that. So let's scale it first and then do the snapping one more time. There we go. And slide back up to the top. Perfect. Okay, so now we've got a submit your questions. And the reason these number strings is here is this sets the default text size. And so since we don't have an ability to set text controls really reliably, that works pretty well. Just having, I think it's 50 characters in there. So basically it says this is what it should look like when it's 50 characters long. Okay, so we've got that set up. Now, how do we connect the submit key, which currently says return, but it will say submit when we click play the world? How do we connect that to our wheel? And it's actually not too difficult. And so on the script, I am a key. This is the one that's defined which one is the submit or return key. And so when we come down in here, if we scroll all the way down to the add me event, add me is when we send an event to the controller. And so here we can see that we run if is special. So all of our special keys are Boolean true is special. We have the caps key, we have the shift key, we have the tab key, the backspace, the clear key, and here is the return key. So currently we're sending add me to the screen with a break. And this would be great if we wanted it to break, but we don't want it to break, right? So what we want to do is send a new event to the screen, and this one's going to be called submit. Okay, so we send submit to my screen. We don't need to send a break value, so we'll delete that. And now that we're sending submit to my screen, we can receive that, and that'll be received on the I am a screen script. So let's open that one up and go to the very bottom, and we're going to create a new when event is received, and this event is called submit. Okay, so we've got when submit is received. And what do we want to do when submit is received? Well, if we go to our variables tab, we can create a new object variable. And this is going to be called the wheel control. And wheel control is going to have a way to receive these events and submit that text. So what all happens under the submit? Well, we're going to go to our events tab, scroll to the bottom. We're going to send an event to that object we just created. So this is the object variable wheel control. And we're going to submit submit to the wheel control. Basically, we're just forwarding on this same event. And I like to do this when events are kind of connected and they're just kind of passing along information. So from the submit key, we told the display it's time to submit. And then the display is going to say, okay, well, here's what the current display is. So let's send that off. And so over here, we have saved the current string. So we grab current string, and that's going to be sent as a variable to the wheel control. So now the wheel control knows what the current string is. The question you should be asking yourself is, how do we prevent players from submitting more than one entry? Because you might not want a bunch of junk submissions. Maybe it's okay because you are expecting a mature audience or something like that. But in our case, we don't know what type of people are going to be coming in and slamming their hands down on this keyboard. And so we only want the first entry. So to do this, we need to be in a non-local script. This is a local script, meaning it resets every time a player walks up to the screen. Yikes, we can't have that happening. That means all of our variables are going to get reset. So what we can do is when we're setting it to wheel control is a local script. So then we just need to send the owner of self. So if we go to our actions tab and scroll to the bottom, in addition to sending the string, we're going to send owner of self to the wheel control, so the wheel control can create a list of the players that have already submitted and only allow people who are not on that list. Okay, that is fabulous. But in addition to this, we need to clear the string. So now that the string's been submitted, it'll say thank you. So let's go ahead and set the current string value. So we're going to set current string, and then we're going to grab a string input and say thank you. Perfect. Every time one of these events goes off, we get one of these display current string on self. So I'm just going to simply duplicate this and drag this one down. So that way I don't have to rewrite the script, and I bring it all the way down to the bottom. And so as soon as we're done setting the current string to thank you, we display that current string on self. Voila, we've done it. We have now created a way for people to submit their answers. There's no undo button here. Once it's submitted, it's submitted. It might be kind of cool to share what it is, but I think clearing it out and saying thank you just encourages them to continue moving on. We are halfway there, you guys. So we've sent the submit to the wheel control with a string variable and a player ID variable. So let's head on over to our wheel control, which is this names on a wheel. Don't forget, we're going to have to go into these objects and tie in the variables using reference pills. But before we do that, here at the beginning of the names on wheel script, you can see that the wheel adds all of our questions to a list of questions, and that's all we need to do. Once we've added these questions to the questions list, the wheel takes care of the rest because it's constantly cycling through and selecting the questions. Now, if this is something you're interested in learning more about how we made this wheel, there is a video on the wheel, isn't there? If there's a video on the wheel, it's going to be here. It's going to be in the description. And if you want more information on the wheel specifically inside of our Vidyuu Night Studio, make sure to ask in the comments so we can make that video for you. Okay, so if we scroll to the bottom, we can now do when event is received. And you'll remember this is the submit event, which we now have a copy of, so we can find it from the drop-down list. And then we need to add in new parameters, the string variable, so that way we can receive the question. So we'll just go ahead and call this a question, because we know that's what we're receiving. And we also need to receive a player ID value, and this will be called plid. Perfect. Okay, so now we've received the event, and now before we can go any further, we need to create a new list of player ID values. So we'll create player and call this plids, and then we'll make sure it's a list variable. And we already have one, so we'll call this plids submitted. Okay, perfect. So now that we have a plid submitted list, the first thing we want to do is check to see if the player is already on that list. So we run an if statement. And to know if a player is on a list, you simply check to see if the value is less than 0. Because if a player's value is 0 or greater, they are definitely on the list. From the bottom of our operators tab, we can get the index of an item in a list. If the player is not in the list, this will return a -1 value, which is of course less than 0. And that means they are not on the list, and we will therefore do the action of adding their question. And so let's go ahead and check if the player ID, and then we'll go back to our variables tab, is in the plid submitted list. Awesome. So we know when the first comes through, they're definitely not in the list. So we need to then add them to list. So at the bottom of the operators tab where we have add to list. And now we can add that player ID to the list, and this will prevent them from being able to submit multiple questions. The next thing we want to do is add the question to the question list. And you'll remember we have an example of this at the top. So once again, we're going to duplicate this one, and then we're going to drag it down to the bottom so we can just fill it out here. And one thing I was thinking about doing with this is having the player's name on the question so we know who submitted the question. So this would be kind of cool to like give some personal connection to it. So if we go to the operators tab and scroll all the way to the top, we've got a plus symbol, and we'll drag that plus symbol in there. We want the question to be on the right, but we actually need another plus symbol because it's going to be player's name and then some like colon or something after that. So we want to put the question on the far right. And then we're going to scroll to mid bottom of here, and you'll see player where we can find name of player. Put that on the left side, grab the player ID value. So we're getting the name of that person. And then in the center, we're going to go to our values tab, grab string input. And this is where we're going to put in a spacebar, straight slash, and then another spacebar, and then the question. Very cool. And believe it or not, that's it. Let's go test it out and see if it works. So now we can start the world. Back to our script tab, we'll hit stop, reset, and play. And we'll do that one more time just to be sure everything reset correctly, and play. Yep, everything's looking good. I'm heading into the world, and I can grab these guys. Submit your question. Welcome, Laex. Thank you. That's really personalized. And we'll say, what are the chances this is on the wheel? Okay, I'm going to hit submit, and it says thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so we've got this here. Let's go ahead and wander over and press the button, and it's not on the wheel. Okay. This wheel has a lot of questions to choose from, so this doesn't surprise me. And fortunately, we've got Merc here. We've also got Euphoria. So you guys want to come submit a question onto the keyboard? It's Merc's question. Are you cool? I love it. Submit. And it works. All right, Euphoria, you're up. What question do you want to ask the wheel?
Are you real?
Okay, so let's go ahead and press the button again. And the button says, it doesn't look like we've got a new one yet. What do we do when it doesn't appear on the wheel? Well, we need to check and see if the event is even being received. So to do that, we come up to our names on a wheel. Oh, you guys, oh my gosh, I feel so silly. You remember that thing we talked about? And I was like, you got to make sure to connect it into the thing, so otherwise it won't work. Yeah, we forgot to connect it to the wheel. So we need to use reference pills. I do this mistake all the time, so if you do too, don't feel bad. But basically, we need to connect the wheel controller into our display object. So the display is this text object here. I've grabbed the text objects that's running the names on a wheel script. We're going to go ahead and grab that and link it into the wheel control. And with that linked in, this should work. All right, we'll go ahead and click stop, reset, and play. And we'll come on in here and try this out. So grab these controllers, type in shift test. All right, and submit. Oh, snap! Look at, you're right, there's the test one. It doesn't have my name on it. That is strange. Okay, so what I can say about this is that it's sending the wrong player ID. I believe it's sending the server. Oh, and I spent it. Is it going to land on my test question? Oh, not with Merc there. Okay. We know for darn sure that the controllers have to be owned by that player. So we'll call this right pointer. And so we'll find out who the owner of the right pointer is. And then on our wheel object, we just need to connect this in. And once again, we need to stop the world so we don't accidentally mess something up. So stop, reset, there we go. Then we're going to open up our control text object. We're going to open up the properties panel on our hand here. And if you click on the top, you can drag this around nicely. And if you joystick to the left, you can actually rescale this, which is super useful. And then we're going to grab the group and put that under here under right pointer. Go ahead and close out of these. And we'll give this one more go. If this doesn't work, I'm pretty okay with just forfeiting the name part of this. Okay, stop, reset, play. And now we're going to come on in here and grab these. Welcome, Laex. See, it knows my name, but for some reason, you know, I guess I'll have to figure this out. This is funny. Hi, submit. All right, here it is. This has got to be it. This is the one. I feel it. What? There it is. We got it to work. Laex 05 high test. That's right, you guys. We've got custom questions on the board now. This is going to be so much fun. I'm super excited to be seeing what other users are going to be submitting and what type of questions we're going to have on this game show. And that's with our host, The Real Euphoria. Woo! All right, well, there you have it. That is how we implement the keyboard and make it work. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Use the comment section if you want to get a copy of this. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in Horizon. Bye!